Hello everyone, this is the Women in Action Sports Network Conversation Space. I am Alba Pardo and today we're going to have a bit of a special chat as it's an open conversation that we hosted with several of the main makers and shakers of the snowboard industry that could assist to this conversation. In this occasion, we had Satu Järvela, Chiara Grisorio, Marcel Den Oude, Sophie Acworth, Nick Bridge, Marina Minnetti, and Ponzio, amongst others. But they're the main actors that took part in this conversation about the progression of female snowboarding. We talk about events, setups, how to balance things out, how girls' events can be beneficial or not. It's really just an open conversation to share thoughts, share point of views, and it turned out to be a great way to kind of highlight experiences from different teams, from different organizations, and from different ways to handle things. That these people kind of brought to the table their own experience and their own thoughts and experimentations on the topics. This will be one of many conversations, and we hope to create this space where all the makers and shakers and passionate people about snowboarding, but also on promoting the female side of things, can meet, discuss, and hopefully improve, because we don't have all the answers and probably will never do, but we can only keep trying. Now, let's just tune in into the conversation where we start talking about the benefit or not of the Only Girl events.
What I see, and also in other sports, is that you already have specific Only Girls projects, and they work. And you have, when you go to also Only Guys projects, does work as well. Also the mixed things work. So I don't see a problem of not doing specific Only Girl things or something like that. I can't imagine why you would be against that.
Marina, we were just having a conversation that you're organizing a lot of, especially for younger girls, specific events, and you come from that background. What's your take on it?
Yeah, do you hear me? You hear?
Yeah.
I think that as you said, that there is need for both events. I think it's absolutely needed for the girls only platforms, that girls learn to take their spot in the park and learn to take space. And somehow I think girls need that to be able to develop in their riding and their courage. But and that might be needed for guys as well, but I believe that it's more needed for women and girls. And there is absolutely need for the events where we are all together. So I don't believe either it's a problem in that way that everything of this exists. But I absolutely see a need even in the further years to have the all girls events. It happens a lot of stuff many times that actually doesn't happen for the same girls in the events that are for both sexes.
If we talk about the isolation and education, I thought it was a kind of interesting point of this person did on their comment that that women's events kind of exclude men and therefore they don't educate men. What are the benefits from the girls' events and programs versus the education of, like, is it really an isolation or is it more like enhancing that and what could be a good balance of it?
You see also a lot of shyness goes away when the girls are together, especially with the younger girls who are not as good as the older girls or women, and also with guys, when they're guys, they seem to have a little bit shyness, and that will go away quicker if there's only a lady or a girls event. That's what I always see. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Chris, go ahead.
Marcel, I agree 100%. We run. I help run some coaching sessions where we generally do mixed groups, and then now and again we'll do a girls only session. Generally speaking, girls only sessions sell out. And the main thing with the girls only sessions is that particularly at a grassroots level where you're a beginner, particularly moving into freestyle or something where you're maybe pushing your comfort zone, it's seemingly a much more supportive atmosphere, even with male coaches, to be honest, and a much more comfortable position at that grassroots level. But a majority of those girls that do come and take that initial step at an all-girls session will then come to the mixed sessions in the future, because they begin to learn that actually, generally speaking, I hope, and I talk from my experience, that all of the guys that we ride with are incredibly supportive of the girls. It's not an unsupportive atmosphere. It's just a new thing. It's a male heavy event generally. But once you've made that break into it, it tends to be fairly even, and I hope supportive for everybody. So I would agree. I don't see a big problem with having mixed or individual events. I think it's a great thing to be able to have both.
And I agree in that I think that having guys involved in those even girl only events many times is such a positive impact. If you have guys that somehow, I think all the guys usually want the support, but especially if you have guys that have kind of a view as coaches or other people being involved, how it is for these girls and what these girls needs to be pushed in a right way. I think it also helps them then to take it from these events where guys have been involved to the normal, like a place where everybody is involved. And I really feel that having guys involved in the camps and events for girls only has also helped the guys so much to realize why is it this way that girls have like more difficult to take place in a park as a beginner or so. So I think it's really important to involve everyone in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to learn from both sides. It's certainly not one-sided. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
One thing that comes out in many of the conversations I've been having with you individually and as a group, it's that depending on the age and the strategy or the level of the riding as well, or the environment, these things vary. I think it was Lee's comment that summed it up very, very good. And like, okay, the beginners, and kids, like grassroots events and non-competitive and maybe more mixed. And then for higher level athletes, there were a few people that were talking about progressive setups. I think it's all adapted to different levels, and also age ranges. Something that I don't know if Satu's here, but something that she brought up in the last conversation we had in LAX with some of you as well, was that things like you need women's coaches at a certain age. It's not the same to train kids, hey Satu, or athletes are a bit more seasoned and older. There's facts that women drop off sports on their teenage years across all sports, and there's many statistics that support that, and many studies. And so another thing that came on your responses a lot was we need more women around snowboarding, not just athletes themselves, but like as many of you, coaches, brand managers, team managers, photo, video. How do you see that? Like one of the things that I wanted to ask is like, how do we lower, and I think it's in words of Nick, how do we lower these entry barrier for women, and how do we progress it further?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I had my hand raised a long time ago, but yeah. Hi, I'm Satu, WSF president. So I think that if the mix with the women's events or girls events only, and the mixed events are in good balance, I think that we took steps back. 10 years ago, we had women's events. We had a lot of women's programs. Now they're coming back again. And I think that also, maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, because we're doing camps in Finland, a lot of we have around 50-50 girls and boys. And the girls drop out around 10 to 14, because they're not as competitive as guys, in my opinion. They don't want to have the result. They want to have fun. And that's a big problem. I mean, it was sad that even in Olympics, there was no women judges. Like, we need to get women on different levels. And I mean, I've been lucky that I always worked with men and boys a lot, but not everyone has the same kind of background that it's easy to hop in and you're taking like, hey, come on. So I think that's what we have to figure out, how to get more women involved.
And you kind of see in that age that if the girls have their own girls crew, then it's like way easier to have them in the sport. But if they are only few, then it's like, then they have way more, they get in a sensitive age, and it's so much more difficult to have them left.
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of leads into this is the representation and the visibility. I mean, we have Caitlin and Sophie and Cara as well, probably have a bit more insight, or even Nick on this, on the media side, and give them exposure and kind of showcase women to you know, become role models for others. What's your take on that? There's a lot of steps that have been done towards this, but there's still a lot to be done. How are you changing that within your organizations, for instance? Go on.
Hi, I'm Chiara, and this is Alex.
How's it going?
So we both work for Northwave and Drake, and I'd like to say one thing that I've said to Alba before, and which is that there is a big gap, especially in brands, and I think that's absurd. Still in 2022, we see only male team managers. We see only male inside the snowboarding companies, and that is crazy. Like, that's what we have to change, I think, as well, because it doesn't really make sense that there's, as we were talking before, with like competitions and like getting female athletes to, let's say, flourish or whatever, it doesn't really make sense that it's, you know, you only have the male coaches and the male brand managers and the male team managers, because you need a mix. You need a bit of women in there as well. And like, there's a big gap, I think, in the brands, no?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, for example, in our case, because Alex is the team manager for Northwave and Drake, but when he became team manager, we started getting some girls in, and at a certain point he was like, why am I doing this? Like, you should do it.
We actually didn't even ask. We just
did it. That's the thing. That's the thing, you know.
Like, Chiara just became team manager, like, because we said she is, and now she is. So they can't say anything about that. And I think it's like, in my personal opinion, it's like the way that progress this stuff is like, males have to move the fuck over and like start making some place for women. And if they don't, then there's going to be a battle. And I think like guys got to give up some responsibilities and some space so women can take up that space, because right now we're like, too many people are holding on to it, and I think that's the big problem, really.
May I ask a question? Yeah, go on, Marcel.
The years I am now here especially in the women's sport of action sports, what I found, and I have a feeling in that, is that these stories are for decades. And every time I gave the ladies also opportunities also to come write for my magazine. I had with my own brand for skateboarding and snowboarding, try to get the good women involved and stuff like that. Some women got involved, but very quickly they came from, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I heard that a lot about, not only with me, but also from other things, that it's always, I have other things to do. And even they can have a job, I go to another job, I like that other job. And so my question is more, even you want it, and even you try to push it, what if they don't want it? What happens a lot?
Okay.
How do you do that?
My punk hair now on. But I don't think that's the right question to ask, Marcel. I don't think it's like, what if they don't want it? No. Are we offering the right things to them? Are we offering the right support? Are we offering the right salaries for the job?
I did.
Because offering a little bit is not offering a lot. Offering gear is not a sponsorship deal. Offering to have one team to build up from the ground up is not having a full-on opportunity. Like, yes, everything's welcome, and no one person can do it on their own. For sure not. Like, it's not up to you to do it by yourself. It's not up to me to do it for myself. We're a community, we're a sport, and we all love it. So I think it doesn't come down to one person to take this responsibility. And also there is a lot of people, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes people have other better opportunities and life changes and life shifts. And
I've seen it in men too. Say, no, I can't. You know?
Yeah, but we are now talking about ladies, so that's the whole thing. And that frustrated me, for example, that I met so many ladies. They just went away, even their opportunity was there. And then I think, well,
was it the right opportunity? Was it framed right? Like, sometimes it's not so much of blaming the others, and I'm not saying you did anything wrong in your particular case.
I'm just telling you what I see and saw in this business a lot. And it's not only for me, I thought also from the sideline happening with other companies and other magazines and stuff like that. So
yeah, how many writers you had that were women and that they were telling the stories, or how many women you had at the board level leadership positions to help enable and support these women and their stories in the way they want it to be showcased.
Can I jump in?
Yes, Nick, please do.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick. I'm from Girls Are Awesome. I think it's so interesting. I have so many things to say, but I think the question is why the more interesting question is, why are they leaving? Because what framework are we setting for people? And if they're leaving because it's a toxic environment or bro culture or whatever, there's a whole thing there. Just to jump back to when I jumped in, we're talking about women only events, and I think I love that people were chiming in and saying there's a need for women only events, and especially at the grassroots level and the beginner level, and I think I would agree with that. And also cool to hear that people think there's a big need for a mixed event, because I also agree. And I think it's important to separate those things from educating quite a lot. I get quite a lot of people, because we've done women's only events, and a lot of dudes will be like, yeah, but there's not a problem. Or snowboarding or skateboarding is inclusive in its nature, so therefore you are being exclusive. And I've had that from magazine editors and brand managers. And there's a massive education challenge to be done. And I would agree with Chiara as well, that the brands, have generally the biggest window to consumers, and to be, increasing their representation. And I think they have a responsibility, and especially some of the bigger brands have a responsibility, and maybe some of the bigger brands are already doing a lot. But I've always dreamed about this room this is the first time I've joined one of these. Thanks, Alba, for the invite.
Thank you for coming.
I've dreamed about a summit. I was at a skateboard summit pre-pandemic called Pushing Borders. Does anyone know about Pushing Borders? There's a skateboard-driven summit thing, and Nike Sport supported it, but I'll stop talking in a second. But I dream of a summit where you bring in all the key stakeholders from across the industry, because I also believe that we need better representation at all levels, and to change it, we need women in decision-making positions, and we need to make, and I also agree, I lost your name there, bro, but kicking the dudes need to move aside, but we also need to,
Alex.
We also just need to add space, because the diversity in our difference of opinions is better than just having only women decide or only men decide. So I also agree there's too many dudes around the table, and some need to leave, but we also need to increase the amount of seats. So that was a lot of random thoughts, but I'll just stop now.
Thank you, Nick.
Can I say a word?
Yes, of course.
We had just a discussion like a few weeks ago. I work for the Swedish Snowboard Association, just for the women's side, to help to push the women's side forward. And we have had a situation in our national teams that there is only few women, and all the women that been like come to that point, they don't really like being in the national team, and they feel that it's not a good environment for a woman. And in the end, we did like different kind of education for all the trainers and all the guys that were in the national teams to help out this in the situation. And what we see is a lot that it really is not that these guys want anything wrong or bad. It's just that there are these little tiny things in the culture that affects these girls that comes in these positions where they are only few women in a man's dominated situation. And I think it's even I react to all these little things that actually affect, because I probably don't think about it being in this industry for such a long time. But I really think that it is also about the education to really talk about these subjects, because I don't think anyone wants that the women wouldn't feel welcome.
Absolutely. Yes. I think we're all optimists at heart, and I always like to believe that if there's mistakes being done or things, that it's because we don't know what we don't know, and men often don't know what we need because nobody has told them. I had this conversation a few months ago, a bit of a random, after an event in a hotel. Turns out this guy is the marketing manager at the Europe level of a big action sports brand. And he was like, I have a question for you. I said, why? Like, I understand, the men and women's physical differences at a level, and I'm talking high level snowboarding now. But like, why? And he brought up Kevin Backstrom as an example. He's I don't know if you met him, but he's not like super tall. He's rather skinny. And it's like, he's not particularly strong or taller or super big compared to other guys. And why is he so much better than any other woman snowboarding? And I mean, please, what would you answer to this question? Because I was very puzzled.
I'd answer Zoe Sinnott. That's all.
Yeah, but not even to kind of like name specific riders, but in general. And also like how his question was more in the lines of like wanting to learn how to progress high level snowboarding and everything that entitles to get to that level. I'm like, okay, where do I begin?
Is sorry, just to sort of chime in. Chris. Is there sort of? I'm hoping I don't make any enemies here today, because I'm kind of, my plan was to listen and learn because of other things that are happening. But I kind of feel that there's quite a big difference in the industry in terms of helping women come into a non-event based snowboarding career and coming into an event based career in terms of competitions. Because as a non-competitive video situation or edit, then equal opportunities is very easy, I think, or it should be, in terms of having equal numbers of female and male riders in a video part or something along those lines. But when you get to high level competition, I can understand the need for having female competition and male competition at the highest level, just because they are different. We see that in terms of the Olympics and the World Cups and things, and so some integration but some separation at the same time, with an equal level of respect, hopefully, for both sectors. And obviously when it comes to competition, prize money or prizes and everything else, that the inequality there is something that should be fixed very quickly and easily, in my opinion. But is it and even going to try and find more women in the industry in terms of brand managers and things, the brand managers and things, particularly, they may, although it's probably unheard of in the snowboard industry, they don't have to be snowboarders, and I'm sort of not struggling to see the different paths, but I'm just thinking that what helps one aspect of integration may hinder another part of something going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. Does anybody else want to contribute in this?
I would like to say that I think it's interesting point of view, Chris. And I think it's, when I think about like films, that it's many of the films that doesn't even have a women writer in, or you have one writer in a film. And I think it's many times is that still some of the guys, they don't see the value and how interesting women's writing have already got them. Because I mean, there is amazing writers that can make beautiful parts that can be a big plus for any guy's film. But it's still many of the film companies that doesn't really see that. And I think even in the industry that there is more and more women coming in the big positions. And as you say that they don't even have to be snowboarders. No, but there is even many women snowboarders that would really want to be in the industry. But they have gotten a lot of maybe negative situations, and then they don't really feel like they can.
Yeah, they don't feel. Yeah. I can see that. I can understand that, and I agree 100% on the video parts. To see more women in the video parts would be amazing. It's, you know, and that should, for me, that should be an easy fix in the industry. We should. What I can't understand. I've never met anybody that would want to fight it.
No, exactly. But it's been like when I've been like trying to help. There is one specific writer in Sweden that was able to kind of be in a really high level film. And then when I somehow talked with the sponsors, they weren't ready to put the money as the budget for the women. But of course, I mean, it is changing all the time. And I guess that's why we are here, that the situation is anyway getting better all the time.
Yeah. I don't see any of that side of it. You know, I'm a much lower, you know, a much more grassroots level. So I you know, that's good to, well, it's not good to hear, but it helps me understand why it's more difficult for them.
Yeah, I want to bring up what Lee just posted on the group, on the chat, on how until snowboarding, women's snowboarding is treated equally, snowboarding still needs the Olympics. And one thing that the Olympics has been really, or one picture of the Olympics that really has stuck to me is how the women celebrated at the end of the competition and how they came together. I mean, yeah, Lee, you were there. Lee, you were there inside. You can probably tell us how that felt, and Satu, you were there as well. But yeah, how does it feel, the competitiveness between the guys and the girls in that scenario, for instance? Satu, yeah.
I even have to say I saw red when I heard that the announcers in Olympics, every time that they said something about girls, it was what was it, snow bunnies or some shit like that. Like, how disgracing is it for women? Like, if we would talk,
who did that?
It was the announcer in China, like the Chinese side, because we heard the Chinese, and it was just like, my head was just like, what? Like, why are you doing this? Like, there was nothing like that in men's category, and then the girls were like snow bunnies or whatever, cutie pies and stuff like that. So, but I'm just thinking on this. Also, sorry, hopping or jumping on to another thing is that that I think that we also need more local heroes, because if you talk about the grassroots level, and then you try to, the girls want to be at the top level, it's super hard if they don't have the local heroes, and they have to compare themselves to Zoe or Anna Gasser. Like, those are the tricks what you need to do. It seems years ahead, you know. So just to have like the kind of balance who you try to reach on the competitive side, or is it just as a normal hobby or filming side?
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sophie Acworth, and I work for an agency called The Distillery and head up the communications for the Nines. So kind of dealing with balance in gender in snowboarding, ski, and mountain biking is something that we kind of end up doing all year round. I think one thing that I've realized over the last year or so, and it actually reflects in our social groups, is the systemic problem of the confidence gap between genders. This doesn't relate to sport. This relates to the fact that women feel ashamed to be confident. And this is basically the biggest problem. And I think this is then filters into everything else we do. It depends how you grew up. It depends what generation you're in. It depends what parents you had. But women are not meant to be overtly confident. It is seen as aggressive. It is seen as too much. And I think this is one of the biggest problems that I think we face. I have it. I work in a company. When I first joined here, I was the only woman of 19 men. And I think women have a tendency to put their head down and hope that naturally their significance and their contribution will be recognized, but you don't want to shout about it. And I think that it's the same way in sport, that you just hope that someone will notice. But I think this is where men claim the space because they feel confident to do that. And I think the same thing can be done in the same way, but it's how you choose to represent and tell that story of your own. So I think this is almost outside of sports. This is in business for sure. And I do think that is, I think, to be honest, one of the biggest problems we face. And it's this combination of, let's call it the confidence gap and imposter syndrome. So that would be, yeah, Alba?
I mean, it's biological, right? Like, we learn differently. And when we learn something, we don't want anybody to watch us learn it. We don't want anyone to see us fail and fall off. And especially in the teenage years, you're much less confident in your image and your body, on your ability. And that translates, and it's across society. And of course, it translates to sport. However, sports, I believe, has the power to make that better, improve that by, empowering all these women, being like, it's okay to fall as long as you get up. And the community is another big part that I think it's needed. And in your answers as well in the questionnaire was part of it. But before we jump into the community and how we can support each other, how do you see the balance between exposure and visibility on money?
I think there's one thing that I've kind of been noticing, and I think it's this idea of the ladder of progression. Someone else touched on it briefly, this idea that if you only see the top ranking women, which is then either top ranking in podiums, points or prizes, or sponsorship or Instagram reach, it creates this huge gap. So I think it is something about creating a stronger hierarchy of progression where basically women can see a clearer line of how that progression looks, that there isn't just this dream world at the top, which is only represented through Olympics, X Games, whatever it may be, and then there's local grassroots on the hill. I think we need to create more visibility about what that curve looks like and work harder on representing basically the middle section of the pyramid. And I think this is a massive thing, and I think it's hard because it might not be the thing that gets lots of media attention. It might not be the really interesting story, but it's you can't be what you can't see. And showing the visibility of that is the strongest thing that the community, the industries can do to make that more apparent and to normalize it, to normalize progression. And, it's something that, so at the Nines, we are not a contest, we are a progression session. And part of that is the idea that you have a week to have a jam to fuck up. You can fuck up and it doesn't matter. You're not defined by your final run. This idea that, I don't know if you guys saw the post from Jamie Anderson. I think she's struggling right now with that feeling of used to being the top of something and that she was defined in one run in one day. Lee, I think you wrote a really nice comment about this idea that the one run is now feeling this defining moment of her career, when this is completely not true. It doesn't represent her career and her life and everything, but it's just, I think it's about storytelling, exposure, and maybe not almost kind of just idolizing the top section all the time and just making way more room for the ladder. I don't know if that makes sense, but showcasing the ladder more.
Yeah, I think.
Is it okay to say a thing?
Yes, please.
We have a group in Sweden which is 200 girls in this snowboard group, and it's called like All the Ladies in Swedish. And they have become really big because they are exactly showing that they have their own time in a park, and they do a lot of stuff, all the different sides of snowboarding. And it's about having fun, plainly about having fun. And it's kind of cool to see because it has gotten so big in Sweden that it's like everybody kind of in the industry says that this is one of the coolest things that is happening in Sweden, snowboarding right now. And I mean, it comes there that they start to make their own events that are not competition. They make their own camps. There is so much happening. And I believe exactly that you kind of have to have all the different levels to show, to relate to. I mean, from the when you're a 5-year-old and you are in your club to Zoe. So yeah, and that means that we need more money and more events and more people that are involved, I guess.
How do you showcase that? Like, as you said, Sophie, maybe it's not the nicest thing to show. Sorry, Lee, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, you just said exactly what I wanted to ask. Like, what are the avenues nowadays for getting this, getting these women seen? Like, you know, it used to be showing my age here, but magazines and video parts, that was how you got known, how you got sponsored, how you made a living. Nowadays, everything's so diluted. Like, I don't know the best ways to get these people the coverage that they deserve.
Well,
It's
interesting because like we use a lot of Instagram, but we actually did a project with we have a like big sponsor, which is like from the government, where they support all the different sports, and they lifted up this problem that how do we get these girls to be seen. And they made a project where they actually involved our top riders, both in free ski and snowboarding, I mean guys. They made a campaign for these girls and they involved the guys to push these girls. And I mean, of course, it wasn't an easy road because they weren't so willing in the beginning. But somehow when we made good enough material about these girls and really showed how amazing their riding is, the guys were also wanting to do it. So that was one way what we did to get more attention to these girls.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, because it's a tricky one. Like, if it's not the best-selling story, how do you sell it, right? Nick, you want to have?
Yeah, probably
for sure.
All over the place again, but I'm thinking going back to that, the brands have a responsibility, and Sophie touched on like sport and business, but I think they're not mutually exclusive. And if we're talking, you know, snowboarding, it's a big business. There's brands driving a lot of the cultural shifts, and therefore, you know, they need to take a role. And maybe it's about changing the perception of what does success look like. And you know, I hear a lot of stories about, you know, Jess Kimura's a great example of having to fund her own film, and a lot of people saying, oh, I just can't get the funding to tell my story. And perhaps it's because it's not this like tentpole moment of a triple whatever in Most Beautiful Powder, but those stories are the realistic stories of these mid-level riders who maybe have a couple of small sponsors, and to get those out. And I think more money in the industry. It's awesome with places like Sweden because there is, you know, like equality, you know, leader in the world, and government's putting money behind, but there's EU funds to be found for these sort of things. Yeah, I don't know if that's not any sort of proposal for a solution. It's just, I think maybe just trying to think about what success looks like, because I totally agree that creating a space for more relatable role models is really interesting, because then you can go, because I'm never going to be Beyonce, which is a real bummer for me, but I might be able to be someone who's on a smaller stage, you know, playing to 50 people. I might be able to aspire to that. And so I totally think that gap. But, you know, the conversation always spirals quite quickly into what Sophie so eloquently put. Hi, Sophie, long time no see. The confidence gap, that's brutal. That's like a massive thing.
I think the voice, again, because we're not naturally showy, we're not naturally going to bang our chests as women to say, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing. It's that bit harder to get showcased. But when you have the confidence to actually find your own voice for whatever it is and start talking, people start to listen. And I mean, I don't have to go far to find an example like myself, you know, as a new mother and still snowboarding and trying to have new projects. For a long time, I kind of went, shh, you know, like whatever I do is not good enough. It's not big enough. It's not important enough. It doesn't make a difference. I'm just average. I'm not as a good photographer as others. I'm not good as events as others. As soon as I start talking, people start listening and they start paying attention. But it takes time to find that security and believe in what one's worth and what can one show the others. And I couldn't have done that without mentorships and allies. And in the path of having those, I've also had a lot of people that have put, you know, rocks on the way and sticks on the way for me to jump over, and those really put you down again. But then if you're strong enough and focused enough to go back to the real mentors and the real allies to hear that, and a lot of the times these allies are just women like you, people like you that go through the same stuff and kind of empower you to keep going. And then at one point, you know, you have that voice and people start listening. And yes, it's diluted, of course, you know. If you look at followers, you know, what is 1,000 followers compared to 150 million? But then it's 1,000. But like if I do that and you do that and someone else does that, bit by bit, we're gonna build it up and we go to community. And I wanted to touch on community and save a space to talk about community, because I've been so sad in the past, you know, a few months, and the Olympics was just the perfect example how the community gets divided, how we attack each other, and how it's been so upsetting to see. Even, you know, at events like things that are happening that are great, like natural selection, the nines, like, yeah, of course, the Olympics has been brutal for a lot of people involved that love snowboarding, men and women. How do we keep a healthy community, and how we translate that into female? Like, I think if women have one power is to glue and be the glue of things and bring people together in a way that before hasn't been possible, because, you know, one too much of the same thing doesn't mix well. So if we bring that to the mix, we can hopefully make a better, stronger, more cohesive community. But how does that translate to every aspect of this, from events to coaches to riders to brands to money to how do we actually do this?
I think there's an element of curation. Whoever that person is who is in charge of something is actually curating personalities in a space. It's something that we worked with on the bike event a lot. So last year was the first year that women came to the nines. It's been kind of an anticipated thing that we've been working on for a little while. And sorry, I have to use biking as an example. I hope that's okay. Yeah. But I think in this one, if you know much about the biking industry, women's progression is in this crazy tipping point. It's basically what snowboarding was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're watching it happen again. And the momentum is mental, like to really understand the froth that's going on and the acceleration of progression. And one thing that we realized is something like downhill biking, there is a huge women's presence and it's very established. And when we decided to add women, we tried to look at the list like a circle. And we basically tried to find women that could sit opposite each other and fill the space, but not having too many of the same thing, which is what you just said, Alba. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, we wanted to eliminate competition and instead encourage sharing of ideas and interaction to gain knowledge from each other. So just to go show you a quick scale of how we did it in the nines, we had a 40-year-old English rider who is not Insta famous, has not got big sponsors, but she's been riding dirt for a very long time. She is a steady kind of, what's the word? Like a workhorse kind of, is the wrong way of saying it, but she would identify herself like that. But then on the flip side, we had a 14-year-old German girl who's doing tricks that most of the top mountain bike women are not able to do. This idea of playing with spectrum, I think, is a really good way to create community, because it means you listen to each other, because you can't both be the best at something. And I think by creating these, this is why it's a curation. Someone also needs to take responsibility to basically listen, understand personalities, and then create and formulate something where people are able to feed off each other and that can offer, that everyone finds self-worth if you can offer something that you have. And this is one approach that we are trying to work with, is creating balance. And I think there's one more thing I wanted to say about that. And I think it's about working with ratio. And this comes back to not only personalities, personality ratio is one aspect. It's about ratio and events. So you know how quite often you have events and there's always like twice as many men minimum?
Always.
And I think this is something that it's a challenge. I know that it's hard when there is 30 amazing men and maybe the list of amazing women caps at 10 of that kind of top level. And this is a really freaking hard thing to balance. I think playing with ratio is a great way to build confidence. And sorry, I'm going to jump. And there's one last thing that maybe, I don't know if it was mentioned at the beginning, is also understanding that not one approach fits all. And I think that brands, events, everyone needs to maybe clue in a little bit more to the concept that women work differently and honor that and actually look into more mental coaching. Because, for example, you take up an event and I'm going to use the nines. First day, within 3 hours, the men will be throwing triples on ski, for example, and it will take the women 3 days to have the same confidence in that position. And the problem is when you then suddenly see a man do something you can't even begin to imagine how to do, you don't want to perform suddenly. You suddenly go, oh no, okay, fuck, maybe I'll just wait a bit. And I think this idea about dealing with a bit more mental coaching and actually for everyone to listen and tailor a little bit more to this, we're all going to get a better result and we're listening. So yeah, I don't know, we've got kind of toying with ideas about kind of giving women maybe the opportunity to have like half a day extra at setups, to have that time to understand what it is they're dealing with, and just, yeah, not trying to do the one size fits all approach. I don't know. Those are some thoughts from me.
That was epic, Sophie. I really like the circular approach to balance and to fill up the space. Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more to add to that. Marcel, go ahead.
Well, to get on that story about the ladies are taking longer for those tricks. They changed in skateboarding the age of the Olympics from 13 till 15, I believe. And that's because of the 13-year-old girl didn't have a fear hormone. And that's what it's been told to me from the federations as well, like that. And that they have no fear hormone, the others have. So they lift up the age. Is that also in this story relevant or not?
I think
like the fear to do things and.
Well, of course, but that's why, you need experience to perform at a certain level, and that's where the progression comes in.
Yeah, but skateboarding these days, they're 8 years old and they're doing crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, competitive snowboarding as well. 17-year-old ones are the ones winning gold stars. So it's not like, of course it is, and the younger the kids learn, start to snowboard skate, the younger the pro athletes will be. But we're talking about actually maintaining that and keeping it across and making it durable in the long term. It's not just about 15-year-old, like the industry is much bigger than that. And when we talk about progression of women's snowboarding, like if we only focus on 13-year-olds, I don't think we can go much further.
I would really like to share an experience. We have had 1 year, we have had this big airbag tower in Sweden, which has helped our snowboarding a lot. And we decided straight away that we have to have camps for girls because we need to get girls down from that tower as well. And it is really demanding. It's almost vertical running, and it is really scary. And when we had the first camp, we had a group of 35 girls. And these girls they have been in the camps together, they know each other, they are in a safe spot. And I was really nervous. I thought that we had 2 riding days, and I thought that I don't know if all of the girls are going to come down from this tower, or actually never thought that all these girls would come down from these towers. And I think after 1 hour, when the camp has started, all the girls have come down from the tower, and most of them were trying double flips and everything. And I'd be really wondering that, why does this happen? And I think that they already were in a safe spot where they knew each other, they were pushing each other. And I mean, I thought it was amazing to see. So I think it's also there a lot that they kind of have a safe spot where they can try new things. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's certainly a very different confidence and community between male and female, isn't it? When it comes to progress and trying something new, it's a very, when you look from the outside, it's a very different sort of process for them. It's not the female riders we find obviously ride up to from the scenes of the Olympic level. It's incredibly supportive, female to female, and potentially certainly different on a male to male basis. They don't set against each other; they set with each other, or they appear to.
Yeah, I believe that's really, really strong power in that.
Yeah, I'm really conscious about time because I don't want to keep you guys for longer than we set the hour to. But I'd like to conclude thanking you all for taking the time to be here and kickstarting this conversation. I have a feeling that we're onto something. It's something that's been really needed. As soon as I posted this online, there were like 40 people that signed up, and then they tried to come. A lot of people that messaged that this is really needed, and they're really curious. And again, I go back to that optimism that we think we all here have, and it's that we can just keep learning and looking forward. And if we've made mistakes in the past as an industry, as a community, we can keep improving that and supporting each other. And also as women, to tell men what we need, and for men to be humble enough to ask when they don't know. There was something about what we can do in one of the answers of the questionnaires, and it said, watch them, seek them out, listen to them, request them as instructors, support them. I think that really well sums up, what we're trying to do here. And I believe the community starts with us because we're interested in it, and a little bit of a time in our own respective circles, we can keep pushing for that and inspire others to inspire others to inspire others. And hopefully that way it's more organic and less diluted at the end. So again, thank you all for coming, and let's keep this conversation alive.
Thank you, Alba.
Alba, sorry, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. Can I jump in before we finish? And I hope this isn't bending the rules of a Zoom call.
No, I mean the others, they can log off.
I've got so many of you guys collective at the moment that Alba, you already know that one of the main reasons for me joining the call is over the next 6 to 9 months I'll be putting together a project based on female riders coming out of the UK. I've never done it before. None of the riders are sponsored or anything else. And so if any of you guys, industry professionals or riders or whoever's on the call, has any tips or help or can support Alba or has already offered hers, we've got 35 other supporters around the world, but we're all new to it. And if there is something that you guys have experienced already, I don't know whether Alba, if any of these guys, that you have my contact details. If anybody wants to get in touch with any advice or anything that you guys think that I can do or we can do to support things better, please get in touch, because we want the project to be a success, and we want it to improve for everybody.
And I think not just for your project, Chris, but in general, I invite all of you to collaborate with each other and invite others to collaborate, to exchange this knowledge that we've historically and over the years been so protected over, because it's so valuable. And only with this knowledge and information of learned experiences and mistakes and struggles, we can improve and do better in the future. We will set up a group, I think, on Facebook, or I'll see what other options there are. I'll ask each of you, what would you like to do? But to kind of keep it alive, to kind of be able to, there's no existing platform that you can go and ask these kind of questions. in an organized way, and people are always happy to help if you raise your hand and ask. So if you're all okay with it, like we can try and set something up. You know, this is one of the missions I have with Women in Action Sports Network, is to try and offer this space that we can collaborate with each other and, you know, share our burdens and our questions and kind of offer help or not, or ask for help and bring the expertise. So
can I just suggest with Chris in that example, if you have a project plan for something like that, that may be the right or the best way is to potentially share it with a group like this. And then it's always a nice way to present the project and then gain feedback. I mean, Albert, I call you a lot when I have ideas to bounce off. And for me, you know, if we ever have a project or an idea or a concept, I just call as many people as I need to, because ultimately don't try and guess for the community, speak to the community.
No, that's perfect. Thanks, Sophie. No, that's absolutely.
Yeah, let's keep asking. And again, yes, Alex, go ahead.
Hey, how you going, everybody? So yeah, anyway, I have so many things I'd love to say, but I think we're wrapping this up. But basically, yeah, for me, it's been a super amazing journey this last year and a half, where really my main focus and what I'm trying to do is I really want to push the women's side of snowboarding, use a little bit of my influence to like make a difference, especially because now I have a daughter, and actually I'm in a room filled with some rad female snowboarders here taking a break. There's Veroniki and Nata and Chiara, and there's Joe.
They're in the middle of filming. It's hilarious.
Yeah, we're taking a little break. We're actually just lapping outside. We've got like this backyard park happening out here, and we're actually filming just a mixed video with like the girls and the guys. Like we've got 3 girls, 3 guys. We're just shooting. The Simpson brothers are got the same mentality as me as well. So, you know, they've been filming even last week with 2 other women, and like giving their time, but not because I think there's a difference between like, there's people that are, I find that they're giving space to women because I feel that's what's socially correct, and then there's other people that are giving space to women because they want to see the beauty that a woman can produce. And like for me, it's like when I watch like these girls ride and they get their shots, I'm not like, oh, it's a cool shot to have. It's like I'm actually stoked to see that shot, because there is something unique in the beauty in the way that a woman does the things they do on a snowboard. It's a completely different thing to what men are doing. And I think once you understand that and you can respect that, it gets you hyped. Like, and working with these girls, like Sophie said, and you know, it's not the same process. It's even something I'm learning. Like Veronica had an insane battle the other day, like broke her hand.
Man, then like broke her hand.
Came back 2 days later with a thing. She's still got a broken hand, and she's like
a warrior.
Taking battles, stuff that like I would have like just been, okay, I'm done, I'm not taking this, you know. Sat down, had a cup of tea, got warm, and then just went back and stomped it. I was like, that was...
And she did it in her way. It wasn't like you wouldn't have done it like that. That's the whole point, you know. Like that is the point of saying maybe women do it in a different way, you know. Absolutely. And I think it also made a difference both to me, to her, to Alex, everyone that was there, seeing like her battling this thing, and then me and her chatting, and then it was just me and her, you know, like just me and her. Yeah. And then Alex was there, and then he didn't really say anything. And then
it's absolutely true that snowboarding is a different thing. Male and female snowboarding are different, and they should be looked at it differently. And we have to stop comparing to really appreciate what it is for what it is.
It's not like that has to be. And I don't like this, the sayings like I don't like, oh, she rides like a guy, or all these things. I think we're making like men's riding positive, and just the way we talk about it, and even like the way we talk totally conditions the way we think. And even like comments like, oh, that's a good spot for girls, or no, that's just a good spot. Like just do a sick trick on it, and it's a good spot for anybody. Like it's not like a good spot for girls. I think it's like already then it's like, why is it a good spot for girls? Because it's small. Okay, so girls ride small things, and it's like this conditioning and the way we think and the way we talk, which is totally wrong. Like girls ride massive shit. I've seen girls ride shit I would never hit, like ever. So like little things like that, you know.
And even the creative approach to this, I think we should embrace the differences in style and approach and mentality, ways to do things, and that's what's gonna make it stronger. On that note, I'd like to end this call saying, let's keep throwing money, attention, and love to it, and just give it time, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Again,
Thanks, Alba. Thanks for putting it together.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
See you in the next
Thanks
one.
all. Thanks, Alba.